So I want to right now give it up for my main man, Simon Chan.
Let's hear from Mr. Simon Chan.
Yeah, yeah. Mr. Simon Chan.
Hi, this is Simon Chan, and today I'm going to teach you one of the critical skills that you need to learn and remember to help you become successful in your home business opportunity. The good thing is, this doesn't require much learning because this is something we're born with. And what I'm going to share with you is how to tell my story. Okay, your story, your experience with either the products or the business, and it's very natural for us because ever since we're young. Your parents probably read stories to you. And even when we were kids, we shared our story. Maybe you watched a movie or read a book and you tell your friends about it. Later on, maybe you went to a good restaurant or saw a good movie, or you had a great computer, iPhone, iPad, whatever great experience you had, something happened to you, or it could be a bad experience, you share with your friends, right? You let people know. That is telling a story. And that's actually very critical. Learning and remembering to do this is very critical for success. So remember, if you look at the top there, facts tell, but stories sell. That's the critical part, okay? Facts tell, but stories sell. When you go over the details, all your facts about your company and the products, when your friends go home, they're not going to remember that. But they will remember the stories that you tell, how you got involved, or maybe about your team, or about your friend, something that happened. So remember, facts tell, but stories sell. So in this training, I'm going to teach you how to tell my story. So let's start off first. What is my story? And for the purpose of this training, I'm just going to talk about how it relates to the business side. But you can also apply this to the product side as well, okay? If you want to get a customer, you want to share your product testimonial, I'm going to teach you how to do that. But for this purposes, I'm just going to mention about the business. So what is my story? It's basically a brief background of why you joined your business. Okay, why did you join your business? What happened that got it started? And why do you tell my story? Why do you tell the story? Remember, facts tell, but stories sell. We mentioned already, when you go home, people are not going to remember all the little detail, but they'll remember the stories. And because stories create experiences. Okay? Just think back when you were in school. You probably don't remember what you learned or much of the studies, right? But you remember the experiences you had in that class. If you ask me what I learned in my physics class, I probably can't tell you much. Or the data, formulas, I don't remember any of that. But I can tell you my experiences. I can tell you what happened to my friend the night before the exam. Because those are experiences, and experiences are stories. And that's what people remember. So why do you tell my story? Because people remember stories. I'm sure you remember a couple good stories, right? You also remember a couple bad stories. But you're not going to remember the facts. But you remember the stories. So people can relate better to you when you tell your story. Because when you're doing a presentation, you're sharing all about the products, the company, people may not relate to that. And as long as they do not relate, they will not be interested. Okay, so you have to build a connection there. So how do you build a connection? It's by stories. So for example, maybe you joined because you want to spend more time with your kids. Now, is that something that maybe your prospect can relate to? If they can relate to that story, then your experience, then they'll immediately have that connection and will be interested. Or maybe you are young and you just wanted to support your parents, right? Which is very admirable. So you started the business because you wanted to contribute to your family, help your dad buy a house. And if your prospect also feels that way, they feel that immediate connection. They will feel connected with that story, that experience. They're not going to feel connected about how great the company is, how many sales, how many earnings they did, how many millionaires they have created. They may not relate to that, but they will relate to your story. Your story, that is what gets your friend's attention, your prospect's attention. So remember again, facts tell, but stories sell. Okay. So when do you tell my story? So normally you give it before your official presentation or before you're about to do a presentation. And even if it's you are not doing the presentation, someone else is, you share people, why did you get started? Why did you get started with your opportunity? And so people will remember that. So, Simon got started with this because this is why he did it. Okay, so if you actually looked at any of my presentations, you probably remember my story about my background, how I grew up, how my father worked very hard. I really appreciate what he did, but he didn't have much time for me. And even though we had money, we had no time. So that was what motivated me to do something, because I saw myself going down the same path as my father. And so that's a story that people will remember. They may forget the rest of my presentation, but I want them to remember my story. Okay. So let's talk about the format. How do you actually give my story? So 3 parts. Number 1 is your life before. Okay, life before. What is your life before you came across your business? Okay. Number 2, how you got to know about your business? How did you come across it? How did you find out about it? All right. Number 3 is the life after. Life after. What happened after? So. But with this format, just to remind you, you can also use it for the products, okay? For the products. So I'm going to give you 2 examples of how you tell my story. So this is my story. Okay? Before I got started the business, I used to have a great job. I used to love my job. But what happened was I was working a lot. And I was actually working to help other people get rich. And I found myself going down the same path as my father, meaning working a lot, but no time. No time for my family, no time to do the things I wanted to do. So so that's number 1, okay? I just made you my life before. And you can go into more and more detail depending on how much time you have. And normally, if you just share with someone, it takes about a minute. If you're doing an official presentation or for a bigger group presentation with like a big group with a projector or whatever, normally I can go 5-10 minutes. Okay. So number 2, how you got to know about your business. So for me, I realized I was working for a couple of years. I actually didn't make that much money. I love my job. I didn't make much money. And I felt it was time to be more responsible, because not only I didn't have much money, I didn't have time. And I was getting a little older. I was thinking about settling down. And when you get older, you want to become more, you start thinking about becoming more responsible. So start thinking about future. I'm going down the same path my father. No time. So I actually looked at different, how it came across. I read different books. One of the books I read was Rich Dad, Poor Dad, which taught me the importance of having your own business and working for yourself. So once I knew about that, I started looking for different businesses. I wanted to work for myself. And that, after doing a lot of research, I looked for a company that was stable, but also growing very quickly with a good team. And that's how I came across my business. Okay. Number 3, my life after. Okay, the life after is, once I started the business, now it's been great. I did the business part-time for 2.5 years. Then I was able to go full-time. And now I work for myself. I control my own hours. I work when I want to work. I just have a son. I get to spend time with him. I take him to the park every day. And that's the benefits. That's what this business has done for me. Okay, so basically that's a really short. If you want to make it fine-tune it, you can normally add a lot more details. But for this training, I kept it very short. Like I said, you can also do this for products as well. Products. For example, your life before. I'll share something with you. This is actually, true with my company's products. They have a really good weight management product. Actually, low glycemic meals that help you, reduce your sugar cravings. Okay, so I'm gonna share sugar cravings so you don't overeat the sweets and chocolates, the high carbohydrates. So I'll share the story. This actually just happened to me this year. My life before, I had my son, and I'm actually I'm a health fanatic. I consider myself a health fanatic, but because of lack of sleep, once you have a baby, my son doesn't sleep much. I end up, you need sugar, so I start eating sweets. Now I love chocolate. I love ice cream. I used to maybe eat it only once a month. Then it became because of lack of sleep. The cravings, I'll eat them maybe once a week. Then it became once a day. Then it was 2 or 3. Then it became 2 times a day, 3 times after every meal. Then it got to the point where I was thinking, if I keep going down this path, in 10 years, I'll probably, maybe hopefully less than 10 years, I'll probably be diabetic. And I want to live a long life because I want to spend time with my son. I have a new son. I want to see him when he's, to play on this high school basketball team. I want to play with them. I want to see them graduate. So I want to be healthy. So I start thinking I need to do something. So actually, I started using one of the company's products. I actually use it, but I said I want to use it more consistently. Okay, use this product, and how I knew about this product, because it's one of the products that our company carries. So I started using this product, these shakes, and so that's how I got to know about it. And what happened was once I started taking the products, it really helps. Every time I have a craving, I take one of the shakes. And the shakes are low calorie, they're very low in sugar, but actually removes your cravings. So I no longer have that cravings. And ever since I started it, it's been over 2 months now, and I've only had sweets 4 times, which is much better. I used to have sweets 4 times a day, and now it's been over 2 months, only 4 times. So every time I feel like I have cravings, I have one of the healthy shakes and remove the cravings. Okay, that's an example of a product. Okay, the last example is number 3 is if you're new in the business. Okay, maybe you haven't had the life-changing experience with the products yet, or maybe you have not, made your $1,000 check yet. So you feel like, well, how can I tell a good story if I haven't had the success yet? So this is very critical. So pay close attention to this. If you've not had the success in terms of money yet, or a great story with the products yet, because you're new, share what you have learned. Okay, because in this, always emphasize this: your business and home business is not just about money. One of the benefits is you learn about self-development. You change as a person. You learn skills, or maybe you have a team support. So, for example, I can share something real quick. When I first started, so this is an example of how I was new. This is what I would recommend you do. Hey, when I first started, when I was at my job, I was just working at a job, and it was just like I was getting bored. I saw no future. I couldn't see myself going down this path. And how I came across this business, I was looking for an opportunity. I want to make a change. And ever since I started this business, even though I've been very relatively new, it's been a dramatic experience. But number one, I feel that I'm going down the right path. I put myself in position to double, triple my income in a year. And that's something, my previous job could not do. Right? I was only getting small little income increases every year. Now I put myself in a position for a bright future. So that's one thing you can say about life after. Another thing is, hey, in just a short amount of time, I've learned a lot of things. I've learned how to, communicate better. I've started, because, through the training, I started going through books that I'm learning, and the things I'm learning, I actually can apply to my job too. Okay. That's another thing you can talk about. Number 3, you can talk about the team. I've actually got to meet a great team, great mentors. When I was on my job, I never met any successful people. But through this business, I met other successful entrepreneurs that we can do things, and it's very exciting. The last thing we can talk about the team, for example, life before, I was just stuck at my job, same people. Now, I'm connected with a group of exciting entrepreneurs, and it's a lot of fun. I'm having more fun now than before. And at the same time, I am building something that's going to build my future. Okay, so let me just emphasize, those are a couple of things in life after that you can say if you're new in the business. The key is you got to be confident. Be confident about it. Be excited, because people buy your confidence and emotion. Okay? Just think about it. If I read a good book. Okay, I read this book. Oh, this is a great book. This is very good. Ever since I read this, it's been a good book. Right? How excited would you be about wanting to know what this book is about? Probably not very excited. But if I said, wow, you know what? This is an awesome book. This is actually a book, really, I learned so many things about this, how to communicate better, how to train people better, how to find better, do marketing. It's awesome. This is actually one of the top best books I've read. And I've actually reread them. I actually highlighted it, highlight different parts, notes. I go back, I use as a resource. I highly recommend you checking this out. It's very good. Now, if I spoke with that type of passion, would you be more interested? Definitely, of course. So remember, the key to my story, anything, be more passionate and confidence. And people they hear that passion, hear that confidence, and people will then buy your story. So how long should your story be? It really depends. If it's just normal, if just sharing something with like a lunch or a meal, could be 1 minute. Maybe a presentation could be 1 to 2 minutes. If you're doing a longer version, a meeting maybe 5 to 10 minutes. And this is your use generally in bigger presentation. And the longer it is, it's basically the format is the same. The format, remember life before, how you came across it, and your life after. The only difference is you go into more details. Okay, so like for example, my longer presentation, I'll share a little bit more details of the way I grew up, my father, what I like to do, how he didn't have time for me. I'll go into more details. Same thing with the products. I'll go into more detail. Like before I talk about the sweets, and that's true. I don't like a lot of junk food, but I love chocolate and I love ice cream. I can even go into details of what type of ice cream I love, and the cravings, and this and that. So you just go into more detail, but basically, it's basically the same format. Okay, so creating my story, follow the 3-part format. Okay, before, how you came across it, after, write it down. Write it down. That's the way to start easily, and practice it. And the key is you don't need it word for word. Actually, if you try word for word, you're going down the wrong path because it should come from your heart, right? Come from your. Think about it. If you went to a good restaurant and you told your friends about it, do you actually read a script to say what to say? Oh, I like to go to this steak. I like to go to this sushi restaurant because it's good sashimi. You don't read from a script. It's not natural, right? Tell it from the heart. And one of the best advice, one thing I learned, I teach people is tell it to people. Like if you're talking to a little baby, a little kid, how would you share that story with someone, right? When you think about you sharing to kids, normally comes from the heart. And the more it comes from the heart, the better the story is. Because people buy you genuine. And we need to be genuine. And by the way, if it's not genuine, so you shouldn't tell that story. We're not here to deceive people. There's got to be something coming from the heart. So again, if you're new in the business, think about how you can benefit from this. How are you benefiting from your opportunity or from the products, right? Maybe if you're in a health company, maybe you are because of the business is forcing you to become healthier, give you more motivation because you can't be selling health if you are not healthy alone. So think about the benefits of your business and how it ties. So you're new. Again, we talked about the benefit could be the training, the group of successful people you have met, or you set yourself put yourself in the track to basically secure your future, right? You put yourself in position to double or triple your income. So tell it from the heart, okay? That's the most important thing. And the last thing is to practice, practice, practice. That's the key thing. Practice it, practice, practice. Tell a story, I used to tell my story to my wife had these stuffed animals. I would just talk to the little stuffed bears, talk to them, talk in front of a mirror. That's a great way to practice. Tell it from the heart. And the key is to be natural. It should not be staged. The more formal, the more staged it is, normally that's the worst. Because then people see that's like a canned presentation. And people don't buy that. People buy the genuine coming from the heart. So remember the importance of my story. And remember, facts tell, but stories sell. Doesn't matter what the presentation is, whether you are presenting or someone else is presenting, they're not going to remember the details. But they will remember the stories, and that's the power. And the last thing I would emphasize is like the best teachers in the world are people who tell stories. They use allegories, right? Like one of the best storytellers of all time. And it doesn't matter whether you're a Christian or not Christian, but most people accept the fact that one of the greatest storytellers of all time was Jesus Christ, because he never told facts. He never told people. Instead, he told stories. And stories will make people think, why in the world did he say that? Why did he say that? And make people think about it. And they will remember what he said because of those stories, those puzzles, those allegories, what we call the parables. He taught in parables. If he just told people what to do, people will not remember it. But people always remember the stories. And you can, next time, any good speaker, a storyteller, just pay attention to it. Any great communicator, they tell stories and not facts. So that's a skill. Make sure I think I emphasized it enough. Practice a story, and most important, follow the 3-part format and tell it from the heart. And once you can do this, okay, emphasize, do this. So I'm telling you, even if you're new, right, don't worry about all the facts about the business. That is not important. You don't need to know every single ingredient, every single thing about the presentation. Don't worry about you. That will come later. You naturally learn that. But instead, focusing on telling your story first, because people buy the stories. And remember, last time, for the one last time, facts tell, but stories sell. Okay. That wraps up our training. This is Simon Chan, and I'll see you again next time.